Hello, welcome everyone. We still have some folks joining.
Irving,
Alex, hey, how are you?
nice to see you. I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me.
Nice to see you too. Thank you for doing this for us, for joining us, and this is just really awesome to have you here.
Right on. Yeah, I agree. Excited to meet everybody and talk about stuff.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, we still have some folks joining in, and I'll admit them as they enter. So how's you're in California, right?
Yes, where are you guys?
Oh, we're out in Wichita, Kansas.
All right, all right. Well, do you consider that the Midwest? I'm from the Midwest.
It is the Midwest, but where in the Midwest are you from?
I'm from Michigan. I have family in Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota,
Nice.
kind of the upper Midwest.
There you go. That's right. That's right. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome, man.
I
Yeah,
love
we're
that John is joining us on the road. He wanted to be here so bad. He's like, I'm not. You know what? I'm going to get some fresh air while we talk while we learn
It's a
about stuff.
beautiful day out, man. I had
Yeah,
to.
that's. I wouldn't mind if everybody got up and got on their mobiles and just like walked outside. We could see different scenery from everybody's vantage point. And I mean, for me, it's funny, John, because this reminds me of how much um, I feel a connection between my body and my ideas. And I had to really keep my body moving constantly, and I have to keep thinking of ideas and solving problems. So I like to be on my feet too.
nice. Yeah, it's the weather has been crazy out here. One day it's really cold, then it gets really warm, and it's just been really bizarre. And today it's one of those days where it's really nice, and it's great to be outside. I just went for a walk about an hour ago with my wife and my daughter outside. It's just so beautiful that you just got to take advantage of these days.
So are you actually doing your Zoom audio through what looks like a U47?
It is. It is a U47. You got it.
You hands down have the best Zoom microphone I've ever seen. Previously, that title was held by the North America Neumann sales manager. He
Ah, there you go.
he does his through a Neumann, but like just like a TLM 102 or whatever. That thing takes the cake.
Oh, nice. I'm very honored to take that title.
I'm talking through like $149. What is this one? This is a iRig Studio USB,
There you go. That's perfect.
but I love it.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Beautiful. And Irving, do your students now have to address you by a new title because didn't you just get a new position?
I did. Thank you. Yes. I am will now be the director of the audio program here, and they can still call me Irving. It doesn't bother me. They can still call me Irving, and man, it's gonna be the same dynamic, the same relationship. It's just we're just gonna take this program to the next level.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Did
Thank
you
you.
receive lots of apples on your desk or flower baskets,
No,
gifts?
no, but I didn't. But I got something better, and that's just very kind words and appreciation from the students, and a lot of congratulations, and that really means a lot. But hey, I'll take an apple any day.
Students, step it up.
There you go. There you go. Yeah,
Well,
there's
I'm
a
ready to jump in whenever you are.
Yeah, awesome. I think this is a pretty good group here. It's kind of finals, ish. Projects are due, papers are due, and this is probably going to be about as large of a group that we're going to get. But this is perfect. This is really great. And I am recording this. This will be available for the rest of the students who couldn't make it to be able to see afterwards. Oh, and here's another one. Here we go. Admit. Yeah, so welcome everyone. We're so happy to have Alex here with us from the Audio Test Kitchen, and we are so excited for him to share about himself, to share about the Audio Test Kitchen, and just learn so much from this session. Alex, I'll tell you, we have here students from an intro to music tech and industry class, and these are students from every level of the program. And we also have a few students from a microphone seminar that I've been lucky to be able to have this semester. A lot of shootouts, a lot of listening, testing out different microphones, and it's just been an awesome experience. And so that's kind of who we have here to work with. And I'll just let you take it away, Alex.
Awesome. Thank you, Irving. It's really good to be here, everybody. And let me start by asking you a question. Has anybody used Audio Test Kitchen yet? Anybody here? Okay. Sheridan Peterson? No, I'm sorry. No, it was John. It was John who was, we already spoke. Will you tell us what your experience has been, John, with Audio Test Kitchen?
Yeah. I've actually been on the search for like a bass microphone. I'm a pro, like a semi-pro bass player, and so like remote recording's a huge thing. Yeah, man. And I've been just like shooting it out over the different bass tracks, and it's helped me out a lot, like figure out, oh, this one's a lot more dark, so I like it for finger style stuff. This one's a lot more bright, so I like it for slap stuff like that. So it's been very, very useful for me.
Okay, so let me do a follow up. What other information do you need besides what you've been able to get on Audio Test Kitchen in order to make a purchase and be confident about it?
Honestly, more tracks would be nice, just to get more like stylistic differences, like how does it sound on this style of bass, because there's only like what, 5 tracks, something like that. But it's, I don't know, it's been very, very helpful for me.
Awesome. Excellent feedback. Let's see, who else raised their, who else has used Audio Test Kitchen? Let's see. Randy, did you say yes? And then we'll
Yeah.
go to Quillen.
So I kind of went on there just to get a little more experience with it before I joined this Zoom. I wanted to know what I was getting into before we started here. But it was cool because I am a total amateur. So I had like no idea what I was getting into, and I was able to look at some of the microphones that I've been looking at for like past assignments and stuff like that, and compare those and see how they are different and stuff like that. But yeah, it was good.
Why are microphone shootouts important, or comparisons important to you?
So for me, I think like it really depends on what quality I'm trying to get. So I would be more of just like a vocalist. I've been working on trying to get, you know, a couple just more experience in the vocal realm, and like just the difference between, you know, dynamic mics, condensers, and just what they pick up and how they make like my voice sound, and figuring out what I want my style to be, and how different mics will affect that. So that was.
So we're not able at this time to put your voice through all the different microphones because these are all actual recordings of microphones. We didn't do any digital modeling. So what, based, with that limitation, to what extent is what's available on Audio Test Kitchen now, recordings of other people, useful to you if you're trying to figure out your voice?
Right. So there are a couple tracks, and I went to there's one with, I think I don't know the name, but it was like the second one in that list, and it has a female voice in it, and it's not too different from what I hear my voice as. So that was cool to kind of compare it, but just finding different like ranges within the tracks that are available, figuring out if what's there does match with my voice, and if it does, then I can compare it, and if it doesn't, then I might wait for that feature to come out.
Cool. So you're able to find like a close comparison. Awesome. Thanks, Randy. Let's go
For
to
sure.
Quillen. Tell us about your experience with ATK so far.
Honestly, I have not yet like even ever bought like even like a $50 microphone. I don't even know, like I'm completely brand new to all this stuff. So it was really helpful to get in there and see how there's slight sound differences between each one, and some others, drastic sound differences. Um, and I listen to a lot of music, obviously, and eventually want to make my own music. And so it's really helpful to hear all the music through all these different mics, so I could figure out what would be a good starter mic for me to start out with, so I can make my own music.
Awesome. And it sounds like a microphone is going to be part of your music making. How about Nick and Josh? Have you guys used ATK? Let's go to Nick.
Yeah, I used it a lot to compare the current mic that I have with like all the different like more expensive ones, and I was just seeing like the benefits of upgrading, what like the really expensive ones like really can do, cuz I like listening to like piano stuff, instrumental stuff, and like seeing the big differences between the microphones. Like with the one I have now, it was on the website. So I was able to compare it with like some of the most expensive ones and was able to be like, yeah, this can like record like on a piano, like a single tone really, really well. But all the other ones, especially the ones that don't just record a mono, can like record everything, like pressing the note on the piano and then hearing like 8 different notes at once as well. Like I really like that in my music, and my microphone can't do that.
What microphone do you have?
It is an MXL 770X.
Okay, right on. Well, that's super useful when the one of the microphones on the website is one that you own, so you have a reference point for comparison. And that's actually one of the reasons that we recorded and included the SM57, 58, and SM7. They're not members of that large diaphragm condenser category, but we really put them up there because number one, people would be curious about it. I was curious about it, and then to serve as like touch points or reference points. Thank you, Nick. Let's go over to Josh.
Yeah, my experience with it is I've kind of messed around with it, what I could figure out before for this, and Irving's brief introduction about it in class. And I think my favorite part and what ended up being the most useful was hearing the separate tracks by themselves, like just the guitar. For me, that was where I was able to. I'm still very new to all this, but hear the differences between mics, and just learning that process of kind of what to listen to, and um, just putting also Irving has like the mic of the week or something he talks about. Just starting to keep recognizing what different microphones look like and the names, and then eventually the sounds that go with them. So it's just a good library, I think.
Awesome, like a reference library. Okay, let me
Yeah.
ask Jack. Let me ask you a question. Thank you, Josh. Jack, what do you think is the importance of microphones generally in I don't know, in your world? To you, what's the importance of microphones?
I would have to say that the importance of microphones is definitely just fair warning. I haven't actually messed around with Audio Test Kitchen yet, but I would
It's okay.
definitely have to say that the importance of microphones um has different sort of purposes, like out in the world for, let's say, like cheap like stage microphones and like a bar, to like really high quality expensive like maybe $4,000 or $5,000 microphones in a studio. They all have their own different purposes, but they all serve an equally important purpose.
Thank you. I read a really interesting statistic today, and that is that the like, let's think about microphone applications for a second. And this even kind of blew my mind and expanded my mind because we as a company have to know our market size. You guys have heard of the metaverse. So think of anything like virtual reality. To participate in virtual reality, you need to be able to see what's going on in virtual reality, hear what's going on in virtual reality, and sometimes people need to hear you. Think about this business, the metaverse generally, is estimated to be $800 billion, worth $800 billion potentially, and that is compared to all of professional audio and musical instruments, which is about $20 billion globally. So what is that? 40 times bigger. And then compared to all of consumer audio right now is at about 90 billion. So that's potentially almost 10 times bigger than all of consumer audio. Think about all those microphones, all those headphones, headsets, all that gear, and all the applications for content, media, and people who know how to work with it. So, I mean, this is just coming out of my mouth right now, not rehearsed. Irving, I'm just thinking like, you're training Professor Irving, you're training like next generation of, of a pretty, hopefully a workforce that's going to have a lot to do.
Right, right. Yeah, it's definitely going to be useful. Yeah, these guys are very talented too, and this is really helping them. Uh, from it's really been great from the point of view that as college students, it's hard to get, and I've been there. It's hard to get our hands on nice or nicer microphones, or the microphones that we would love to get, and sometimes our budgets kind of limit us to that. And it's been really nice, to allow them to be able to audition and compare, and a lot of times to hear wait, that microphone, I don't think it's really worth that much, and this microphone that's not worth this much is actually, it works really well for the application that I'm looking for. So it's been really awesome for that, from that point of view. I think John has a question.
Yeah. So alongside like the metaverse, what do you think the impact of like live streaming is gonna be? Um, because like with virtual concerts being more available, um, and whatnot, like I think this is a great resource to really understand like how microphones like I can order a microphone online trusting that I know how it's gonna sound in a live setting. For like a live stream or something. How do you think that's gonna like change with like the metaverse and everything?
How do I think what aspect is going to change?
I guess just like the microphone industry and like the recording and audio industry in relationship to the metaverse.
I think, and then and after this question, we're going to jump back into some other things that Irving and I had planned. But since we got into this realm of the conversation, my thought is that a lot more in terms of microphones and in terms of audio in the metaverse, I think a lot more of it is going to be based on convenient form factor. So what you already have. Another example, something like that, something like that, and much more reliance on digital processing. So, we're already seeing what's actually to me a remarkably slow transition from 100% analog microphones. I mean, there's hundreds of them, just large diaphragm condensers. It blows my mind. And many of them do almost the same thing. So the question to me arises like, why? Why do we need so many? And that was actually one of the mysteries that we wanted to solve by doing this with Audio Test Kitchen. So what I was getting into a second ago was the idea of digital modeling microphones. I'm actually surprised at how slow the adoption has been, because I think it's such a cool and useful, valuable technology. It just adds so much value to.
We have two of the Townsends here at the studio, so
yeah, super great. It just adds a lot of value to a physical piece of hardware. So I just think that that's what the future is. It's going more towards taking anything that you've got and enhancing it aiming at a certain target of response. But I mean, you hear more and more these days people saying that they use their iPhone specifically as the iPhone recording specifically as part of their production process. Like Phineas, who's Billie Eilish's brother and the producer of her records, he will use this specifically for like percussion samples that he wants to take just like around his house. I was just watching a Mix with the Masters snippet live stream with I think it was Timbaland and Jason Joshua at that whole French chateau thing. Um, but they were talking about how, oh yeah, let's put some snaps on this track. Somebody just grab their iPhone and we'll record it with that. And I think it's not only is it just convenient, but they've actually made this thing sound pretty good. And but this is kind of getting now towards like knowing your tools, and I think that's like something that Randy, you were kind of touching on, and a few of you guys when we first started talking about like what is part of the importance of a resource like Audio Test Kitchen is not just like, oh, I want to buy something, but it's like, what is the range of the capabilities of these tools? What are their different characteristics? Because I might use one thing in one context and another one in another context. And I think the jury's still a little bit out on the degree to which digital modeling microphones can really do that to the same degree as separate specialized microphones. And I can give you here's just a couple quick extreme examples, and then we'll jump into we'll set our Wayback Machine to Audio Test Kitchen's origins. Couple extreme examples. An SM7 dynamic microphone is sometimes favored as a lead vocal studio microphone over a large diaphragm condenser because of its focus and its ability to ignore the acoustic environment around you. So whatever compromises are perceived compared to the response of a condenser microphone, that would be maybe high frequencies, transient response, whatever full frequency range, open, airy sound. People in some contexts prefer the trade-off of what an SM7 offers. Another example, there's a company called Loughton, and they're based out of California. They developed a microphone that is specifically for close-up miking, and not just in terms of the level that it can handle, but it has this crazy ability, and I don't even understand the technology yet, to ignore other sounds around it past a certain distance. So for me, as a recording engineer, an obvious application and one that they promote is putting this microphone on toms on a drum set. So, typically you've got all kinds of cymbal bleed that you're fighting with tools like gates and dynamic expanders and all this stuff, or a ton of editing. But you can use this microphone, and the way it's been described to me, because I haven't heard it in this application yet myself, is that you get this full sound of the tom because the microphone is placed really close to the tom head, and then the cymbals are kind of like a distant wisp. And that to me is just like, that's a miracle. So I don't think a digital modeling microphone can do that exactly because there's a physical phenomenon involved there, a principle that particular physical condenser microphone is operating on.
Right. That's exactly true. Yeah, and we do, like I said, we do have the Townsends here, and some of our students have been trying them out. Definitely our students from the mic seminar, they have been trying it out, and they've been able to hear the differences, and exactly there's a lot of physics to it that do make a pretty huge difference.
So let's jump into why I created Audio Test Kitchen. Really, a lot of it was curiosity and the idea that it seemed obvious to me. It seemed like we had so many people like myself just asking the question, I wonder what this one sounds like compared to that one. And it just seemed to me that technologically speaking, okay, that we have the internet, we can deliver audio files, people can stream them online, we can record microphones. All we need to do is record them in a way that makes it a fair fight. So then, speaking of science, Irving, I put my science hat on.
There you go.
And I thought, okay, well, how can you represent all these microphones equally and fairly? That means that whatever they're recording can never change. So whether it's a vocal, a drum, guitar, bass, whatever, that source recording has to be identical for every microphone, and every microphone has to be in an identical position relative to that source, and the gain, the volume level, has to be the same. You control those three variables. What do you have left? You have left the differences between how each microphone sounds. And that's really as simple as it is. Now, in order to accomplish that, Now that was a long road. I think just for entertainment purposes, I want to share my screen with you guys. Do I have permission to do that, Irving?
Let me see if let's see. Yeah, yeah, go ahead and let me
Okay,
know if
cool.
it doesn't let you, but it should.
All right, right on. Let me see. I'll share my second screen. I think I can make this full screen without messing things up. Let's find out. All right. Okay. Oh, let's see. Host disabled participant screen sharing. You lied to me already. This is
What?
really in our relationship.
There we go. Now I found it. Okay, if we
Okay,
can
right
start
on.
sharing. There we go.
All right. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Let's take a little trip back in time, shall we?
All right.
I'm going to preface this with one thing, and that is that I used to do sales for Vintage King Audio, which is one of the, it's like a US based pro audio dealer. From its origins, considered one of the more high end boutique retailers that focus on having salespeople who have a lot of recording experience. And when I first came into Vintage King, like I think it was 2009, I'd been writing reviews for magazines when those print magazines still existed. And I had done a lot of recording, especially with vintage gear. So I was a bit of a domain expert. And I kept getting the same question over and over again from customers that I was trying to help on the phone or via email. Hey man, I'm considering X, Y, and Z. Which one is best, or which one do you like? And I just felt helpless to help these people do what they really should be doing, which is making the choice for themselves. It's like I couldn't ever have their ears. I couldn't ever fully embody what's important to them. So that's when I imagined this resource that, like the one you see today, where you can compare all the microphones equally, that would but apply that to all gear. And that's where Audio Test Kitchen is going, where it's not going to be limited to microphones. And it's just a matter of time and resources for us to provide comparisons for everything that's out there. But what I'm going to show you right now is the evolution in simple terms of how the microphone comparisons came to be. So, I really, for me as a recording engineer, I started in the, I guess, late 80s. The question has always been like, what is the gear? How is the gear going to affect the sound and the sound that I want to get? So, and the thing about that is that we all have unique ears. It's not just my ears. It's I wanted to make a resource that was relevant and personal to you, to your ears. So the concept came, let's figure out how to make it so you can hear the gear for yourself. This is kind of a funny first sketch of how I pictured the website working. With having being able to select the music, you can hit play and stop, you can create a loop, different sources, and then this is imagining preamps and loading the player up with different preamps. And then a next kind of more graphically intense user interface I designed. Like part of my creative process has always been like picturing what the product would look like. And with a website or an app, it's really important to think about what the interactions would be like. And it's funny when I look at this, I think like, oh man, I really like how some of this stuff is laid out. I wish we would have done that.
Yeah, and I like the thumb up, the thumb down thing.
I know, totally. And then more mock-ups, more like, how am I going to communicate this thing? A big part of product design is also, or product creation and having a company is also thinking about how you're going to market it and how you're going to communicate it. So we built a small team, a lawyer and a software engineer, and me. And then I put together some guys that I really trust, whose ears I really trust and who are friends of mine actually from back in Minnesota. I went to college in Minnesota, and this was, I don't know, taken 5 or 6 years ago. But this guy right here in the middle, his name is James Fluff Harley, and he just engineered the new Korn record.
Nice.
He used to work with Prince back in the day in Minneapolis. Now this guy, Jesse Ray Ernster, we're just good buddies, and all of a sudden he's won 4 Grammys in the last 2 years. So we have a really good team of audio engineers and ears solving these problems. So these are pictures just from my living room 5 years ago of us setting up a few different microphones and figuring out, okay, what are the basics of coming up with ways to compare these microphones on a level playing field. So we tried pianos and guitars and vocals and singing stuff friends, and you know we tried to be as serious as possible.
Right.
Called in some talented friends, and then we moved to a recording studio and started to solve one of I'll back up a slide. So here we have a live vocalist. Now the problem with having a person, how do you get one performance into hundreds of microphones? One identical performance. We tried a bunch of different stuff, and I was really hesitant. So like my background is as a recording engineer and producer, and I really understand the intimate relationship between a voice and a microphone and what can happen between those things. And so even though a couple of manufacturers and some highly regarded engineers suggested we try using a loudspeaker to reproduce a vocal consistently into these microphones, I was just really skeptical and hesitant. I didn't think it would work.
Right.
But oddly enough, when we started experimenting with it, it was like, wait a second, this is actually really convincing. So what we did was we recorded a vocal, an acoustic guitar with like a more like a high-end measurement style microphone, like an Earthworks, a Sanken, DPA, and the results were actually pretty stunning. And we got so we kept working on this problem, doing R&D, working with more vocalists, different kinds of microphones. And before we had the technology perfected, we had already contacted 55 manufacturers and got them to ship us a bunch of microphones. So these microphones showed up at East West Studios, and on our last day before we packed everything up, speaking of marketing, I said, you know what? We need evidence about the scale of this thing. So we actually spent 6 hours setting 200, this is like 235 mics, setting them all up in a perfect 1x1 foot grid, and getting all these different shots and videos with them. And that actually proved like a really powerful image when we launched.
It is. It's impressive.
Yeah. So like I said, we didn't have this whole way to reproduce the human. Oh yeah, back at East West, I should say, we got Yamaha to provide us a self-playing acoustic grand piano that you like send a MIDI file to it and you just watch the keys go. So it played the same every single time. And we had a piano tuner come in several times. It was more than once a day on occasion to keep this thing totally in tune. Then we used typical techniques for re-amplifying electric guitar and bass guitar. So I think that was the totality of what we got at East West. We tried to get drums, and we used these little drum robot things, but we weren't getting, the drum sound was not remaining consistent. So that was really hard. So then we packed up all those microphones, and we made friends with the people at Harman Labs. So Harman, you may or may not recognize, but they're the like parent brand for AKG, JBL, Soundcraft, Studer, and then some home audio brands, Martin Logan, some just really high-end stuff, Infinity.
And they're
and they
out
have
in California.
yeah, and so their headquarters, one of them, they have headquarters in California,
Mhm.
Massachusetts, and Germany, I think. And at the one here in California, they have 4 anechoic chambers. So an anechoic chamber is just a room where you try to eliminate any reflections. It's a room without echo. And so what that allows you to do, especially with transducers like microphones or speakers, is to measure only what that transducer is doing rather than letting the sound of the room, reflections, dimensions, modes, frequency buildups, whatever, none of that stuff gets in the way. So we really needed that in order to perfect this vocal reamping technology that we were trying to invent. So we got some help from the real scientists, which was kind of miraculous. I mean, because and we just said, hey, this is what we're doing. We're building this resource for the community, and they're like, we think we'd like to help you.
Yeah.
So it was super rad. And this picture on the upper right here actually ended up being really close to our final vocal reamplification system. We used a Sheps microphone with an Atom 3-way speaker.
Mm.
And maybe in a future webinar, we can go into more details about
Right.
why and how. We're actually working right now on our Gen 2
Ooh.
vocal reproduction system, which is going to, I think, look pretty different.
Okay.
So I mentioned that we failed to record drums consistently at East West. And what you see right here in the close-ups is this is one of our little mini drum robots. This is another one here. Those are made by a Polish company called Polyend, and they make some synthesizer products and some interesting stuff. And what it just has a little servo actuated striker that comes out the middle of
Right.
that little ball that you see there. And so it fires really consistently, but the problem is it was wearing the drum head differently over time.
Mhm.
And so we ultimately abandoned our snare drum recordings. And here we are at Chris Lord Alge's studio. He let us come in for 5 weeks when we're working on drums at his studio, and we failed on the snare big time. But the thing that we did get right, we finally got kick drum right. And the way that we did that, I'm not sure if I have a picture of it. There's Chris.
There it is.
Uh, with kick drum, we were able to kind of do it manually. We came up with a spring-loaded mechanism that we were sure fired with the same force every time, and
Mm.
we decided to sample kick drum acoustically. So we would set up the microphones, one close, one far, fire the kick drum with a spring-loaded thing 3 times. So we had 3 good samples. We had reference mics so that we could make sure that each sample was equal, and then we just took the kick drum down and tuned each lug within 1 hertz every time. So like we had the kick drum perfected in a very
Wow.
painstaking manual way. And meanwhile, we were building our website, and then we threw all the content up there, which was a long and interesting process because we had ultimately like 14,000 audio samples, so about 300 microphones, including the modeling mics, plus 46 individual sources. So it works out to be a lot of audio samples,
Yeah.
and manual QC process, making sure the sources match the microphones, that whole thing. Yeah, so that's the end of our my tour, my very brief tour of what was about a 2-year process to make those recordings at I think 5 different studios in LA, and let's see, over the course of December, probably about 8-9 months.
Wow. That's yeah, it is pretty intense. The students who are in that mic seminar class, they know how tedious it can be just to shoot out just 3 microphones with different sources. It can be pretty tedious, and having to do all of those microphones, man, that's quite an intense process right there. So I do have a question. The actual tracks that we hear on the web player, are they processed? Are they? Is there any post production applied to them?
There's absolutely no processing other than a gain matching algorithm that doesn't change anything other than just turning it up and down. We had a digitally controlled Grace microphone pre for most of the recordings that was accurate within 1 decibel. So what we did was we had test tones that were made specifically for level matching, that would ignore the proximity effect. So we, in our raw recordings, 32-bit 96K, we actually got the recordings really closely matched already. And then once we had all those edited, just trim the noise off the beginning and the end, we threw those into this algorithm that then matched them to within, I think, zero point 0.1 decibels according to the LUFS volume standard. So LUFS is European standard for perceived volume, and that was really successful. So all of the what they're called solo sources, so if you go into a song on Audio Test Kitchen, then you look at, like you were saying, like electric guitar or a vocal or a bass, those are all just totally raw. Now, when it comes to this thing called the stacked effect is simply that one microphone you're listening to on every source in the mix. And the concept there was like, sometimes it can be more challenging, especially to, if you don't necessarily know what you're listening for, to discern differences between microphones on a single source. So I challenged myself to think of like, okay, well, what would like amplify the differences between microphones? And I just got to thinking about like, one thing that people will say about recording on one particular recording console, for example, is that like that mic preamp and that console itself will kind of have a sound. And when you record lots and lots of things through it, that one sound kind of builds up on your recording. So I thought, well, wouldn't the same thing be true with microphones? Like if you recorded a whole band with a 57 or like a U87, it would like really have the personality of that microphone baked in. So that's what the stacked effect is, where you can hear the sound of that microphone stack up because you're hearing every source within a mix on that.
Right.
Okay, so on Audio Test Kitchen, there's actually 2 versions of the stacked mix. There's one that's called dry, and then there's one, I think it might just be called full band or something like that. The full band one was actually all processed with UAD plugins, because what we wanted to show people was like, and pretty subtly, but we wanted to show people that this is like what a mixed version of this recording would be like. So a little bit of effects, a little bit of compression, but no EQ. That was really important. Like we didn't alter any of the microphone's spectral qualities. And it's the same mix for 300 microphones. I mean, this is freaking mind-blowing. I've never had such an interesting project. I mean, think about what our challenge is as mixing and mastering engineers. We're trying to make one master that sounds great no matter where you hear it, like through your phone and your laptop and the car and the Sonos, wherever you might hear it. I had a kind of similar challenge, and that was like, how can I come up with settings for one mix in Pro Tools that will work for 300 different sounding microphones? So, but I think I did. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they sound great. I love the tunes too. They're really great songs. So I did want to just kind of talk a little bit more about some ideas and things that came to mind. And we do have just a few more minutes here. Some of the students are probably going to be leaving here in 5 minutes, but we can say no more than 6:30, just to respect everybody's time. But yeah, the whole thumb down, thumb up thing, I like that. And is there a way to have, just the regular user kind of rank the microphones, and then at and at the very end get like a like a histogram or some sort of number of, out of the total population who voted on this is where, this microphone kind of landed.
We are going in that direction. I really want that too. I think it's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a quick sneak preview into something that we're developing right now. So you may or may not be aware that Audio Test Kitchen's we are currently only available on desktop. So you can see my screen now.
Yes.
This little widget here actually is for mobile, but I've got like a development version of it that you can see on my laptop computer here. So this little guy will actually be our new mobile app. And if you notice, we've got little hearts here.
Yes.
So yes, we basically have thumbs up, thumbs down. You can create a collection of your own favorites. And gosh, you guys are some of the first people in the world to see this. We're going to be launching it soon.
That's awesome. We're very privileged. That's pretty awesome. Nice. And I don't want to take from everybody's time and questions. Does anybody have any questions? Because I have a ton that I can ask all day. But does anybody here have any questions that you want to ask Alex while you can? And take advantage of having him here with us.
So with how rigorous the getting everything in the right place for recording each microphone, how difficult would it be to add even more microphones to the platform?
Awesome question. So we went into this first LDC library thinking it's probably going to be a one-time close-ended thing, because we went into so many facilities that we don't own. The time in those facilities was expensive or kind of like a one-shot deal. So our challenge is to find a facility that is ours, and then to create new processes that can be, so that Austrian Audio releasing a new product for NAMM, they can ship it to us in advance, and on the day that they release that product, you can hear that product on Audio Test Kitchen.
Right. How about collaborating with maybe, I don't know, a university out somewhere in Kansas, who might be able to help you with, some of this work?
Interesting concept. I like it. You guys have a nice recording studio out there?
We have a decent one, and we're pretty early. We're 5 years into our since we started, and we're still building and getting new things and opening up new spaces and whatnot. So if we have something like that in mind, maybe we can head towards that direction.
There may be something to that idea, Professor Irving.
Absolutely, we would be happy to help. Cool. Any other questions?
I have a quick question.
Vernon, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you guys when you expand out to do other microphones, not only like newly released microphones, do you ever plan on going back to maybe USB microphones? Because XLRs are great, but they're not super portable, because there is a lot of there's setup that needs to be done, but USB microphones are basically just plug and play.
I love USB mics. That's what this one is right here that I'm talking to you through. I actually think it sounds amazing. It's like such a simple circuit. There's less in the way. It's more clear in some ways. They have their drawbacks, maybe not all of them, but I'm with you, Sheridan, and I want to do USB mics for podcasters. We'll have a recording scenario where there's a microphone on a desk and it's in a more bedroom kind of environment, so people can hear how much background noise is there and how much reflections and stuff like that. So I'm totally with you. There's not a single microphone type, gear type, hardware, software, or even musical instrument type that I believe is not relevant. I'm doing a double negative. I believe all that stuff is relevant to this kind of online comparison, and our goal is to build one giant playground for people to be able to experience and compare all of that gear.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Awesome. And just like I said, I have a ton of questions. I would be able to keep you here all night, and that wouldn't be fair for anybody. But if you have a question, ask now while you can. Uh, Somebody said can't wait to test guitars too. Nice.
Yeah.
And okay, so I do have one more question, but I want to give you a chance, everyone, to ask. So come on, bring him. Um,
Is that something you're working on, like adding speakers or monitors to this, not just microphones?
Yeah, that is. And really the challenge right now is business model. So we launched Committed to make it free to manufacturers, free to users, and we have minimal advertising support. So the majority of our work in the past 2 years has actually been on technology development and business model development. And we're actually going out to raise money to build and scale up to do these kinds of things. I don't know if it's going to work that way, or if we're going to have to bootstrap it, or if we're going to have to do like a crowdfunding campaign, or turn this into a subscription model. But that is all. The dream is there, the vision is there. How do we do it?
Nice. Okay, well, I am going to ask my final question, and any other questions, I'll probably be reaching out to you by email or something.
Anytime.
Thank you. My last question for you is, what keeps you inspired?
Besides perfectionism, man, when I was a little boy, my father, no, this is true. So my dad he really was an inventor. And it didn't occur to me until recently that somehow I got that part of his DNA. You guys may be familiar with a product called the Raven from Slate. I created and developed that product.
Wow.
And when I got a taste of that, and that process of like idea, green light, make it happen, it's out there, people are using it, it's just like, holy crap. So a lot of, I think, what fuels me is fundamentally I have a desire to solve problems and to make life better. And especially in the music and audio domain. I mean, it's music and audio that I love more than anything other than my kids and the special human beings in my life, like you guys.
Oh, thank you.
So to me, there's like a particular bone or nerve endings that get tickled when I think about solving problems in a way that enables people to create better or more easily.
That's awesome. And I do have to mention, we do have a dual Raven system in one of our studios. So
that's so cool.
We love it. So that's awesome. I did not know that. That is so cool.
Yeah, I'm a repeat inventor.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and thank you so much for making it out here, everyone. And again, thank you, Alex. We are very, very thankful that you did this. You joined us today, and you shared the Audio Test Kitchen and all these great things that you shared with us. We're so thankful, and we're here for whatever we can do to help. And we support the Audio Test Kitchen. Just letting us how we can help.
Thank you, Professor Irving, and thank you all for participating and for the back and forth. It was really helpful for me, and I appreciate you guys sharing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Well, everybody have a great rest of your
Let's
night.
take a screenshot. Everybody smile. Right on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. You're going to have to share that with me.
I will do.
Thank you. Hey, enjoy the rest of your day, and hope to stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Alex.
See you guys. Bye.